too useless to be a partner." The words came out of Marcus's mouth like he'd rehearsed them. I stood in our dining room, staring at the divorce papers on the table between us. His mother sat beside him, nodding with satisfaction, her arms crossed over her chest like she'd won something. "Sign them," Marcus said, pushing a pen toward me. "We both know this marriage was a mistake." I looked at the papers. My name was already typed in. The date was filled out. They'd planned this carefully. I picked up the pen, and Marcus smiled. He thought I'd cry or beg or fall apart. His mother leaned back in her chair, confident. I signed my name slowly, each letter deliberate. Then I set the pen down and looked at Marcus. His smile widened. He thought he'd broken me. "You'll be back," he said as I turned toward our bedroom. "When you realize no one else wants you, you'll come crawling back." I stopped in the doorway. Something inside me shifted. Something cold and clear and focused. "Watch me," I whispered. Then I walked out to pack my things. My name is Olivia Bennett. I'm 32 years old, from Portland, Oregon. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to this channel for more fascinating stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The apartment was tiny. One bedroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, and a bathroom where I could barely turn around. I sat on the floor that first night because I didn't have furniture yet. Just a suitcase and a sleeping bag I'd borrowed from my coworker. I stared at the walls and felt panic rising in my chest. No savings. I'd given everything to Marcus's construction business when he was starting out. No family nearby. My parents had passed away years ago. No plan for what came next. The humiliation burned through me. 5 years of marriage, and I had nothing to show for it. I'd worked extra shifts at the hospital to support his dream. I'd believed in him when no one else did. I'd sacrificed everything. But sitting there on that empty floor, something changed. The humiliation turned into something else. Something harder. Something that felt like fuel. I pulled out my phone and started going through old emails. Old receipts. Old bank statements. I'd kept everything, not because I suspected anything, but because I was organized. Because I paid attention to details. That's when I found them. Receipts showing I'd funded half of Marcus's company. Loan documents with my signature. Investment records proving I wasn't just his wife. I was his partner. His business partner. I met with Tyler on Tuesday morning. He'd been my friend since nursing school, and now he worked as an accountant for a medical billing company. I trusted him completely. "These are solid," Tyler said, spreading the receipts across his desk. "You invested $47,000 over 3 years. That's not spousal support. That's capital investment." I watched him calculate numbers on his computer. My coffee went cold in my hands. "Here's the problem," Tyler continued. "Marcus's company is drowning. He has unpaid contractors, delayed projects, and 3 lawsuits pending. His business model is unsustainable." "How bad is it?" I asked. Tyler looked at me seriously. "This business won't survive 6 months. Maybe less if he loses the Harrison project." I sat back in my chair. Marcus had divorced me because I was useless. But the truth was different. I'd been keeping him afloat. My income, my investments, my stability had masked his failures. Without me, he was sinking. "What should I do?" I asked. Tyler leaned forward. "Document everything. Keep these receipts safe. And whatever you do, don't give him another penny." I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt since signing those papers. Not anger exactly. Something colder than that. Clarity. I picked up every extra shift I could get. 12-hour days turned into 14-hour days. My colleagues thought I was trying to distract myself from the divorce. They weren't wrong, but it was more than that. I needed to stabilize my finances. I needed to rebuild. Dr. Patricia Henderson noticed. She was the senior physician in our unit, someone I'd always respected. One afternoon, she pulled me aside. "Olivia, you've been exceptional lately. Your patient care, your leadership during codes, the way you mentor new nurses. I'm nominating you for the hospital's leadership training program." I stood there stunned. "Dr. Henderson, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," she smiled. You have potential you're not using. Let's change that. That night, I walked to my car feeling lighter. The leadership program was competitive. Only 5 nurses were selected each year. If I got in, it could change everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. We need to talk about money. I stared at the message. 3 months of silence, and now he wanted to talk about money. The timing wasn't coincidental. I deleted the text without responding. I wasn't his solution anymore. Marcus showed up at the hospital 2 days later. He waited by my car in the parking lot, looking nervous. His confidence from that day in the dining room was gone. Olivia, we need to talk. About what? I kept my voice calm. The business. There's debt. We're married, so technically you're responsible for half. I almost laughed. We're divorced, Marcus. You made sure of that. The debt was accumulated during the marriage, he insisted. You owe half. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved all my receipts. Actually, I have documentation proving I contributed $47,000 to your company. Not borrowed. Contributed. If anyone owes anyone money, you owe me. His face went pale. You kept receipts? I keep everything. I got into my car. Don't contact me unless it's through a lawyer. I drove away, watching him shrink in my rearview mirror. His shoulders were slumped. His hands hung at his sides. He looked like someone who just realized his plan had failed. Good. Let him realize it. Marcus's mother cornered me in the hospital parking lot the following week. She'd been waiting by the entrance, and when she saw me coming, she rushed over. You abandoned your family, she shouted. Other people turned to look. Marcus gave you everything, and you walked away when things got hard. I signed the divorce papers he gave me. I said calmly. I didn't abandon anyone. He divorced me. You're selfish. You're cold. You never deserved my son. A colleague named Brian witnessed the whole thing. He worked in hospital security and had been walking past when she started yelling. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave, Brian said firmly. This is hospital property, and you're causing a disturbance. She glared at me but left. Brian walked me to my car. You okay? He asked. I'm fine. Thank you. The next day, Brian filed a report with HR. Not because I asked him to, but because he wanted to protect me. The hospital security team added Marcus's mother to a watch list. If she came back and caused problems, she'd be banned from the property. Small victories. But they mattered. I finished the leadership training program in 6 weeks. The coursework was intense, but I loved it. Strategic planning, team management, conflict resolution. Skills I'd been using informally for years were now official. When the program ended, Dr. Henderson called me into her office. Congratulations, Olivia. You're being promoted to shift supervisor. It comes with a salary increase and leadership responsibilities. I sat there trying to process it. Shift supervisor. Me. Thank you, I managed to say. You earned it, Dr. Henderson said. Now go celebrate. That night, I treated myself to dinner at a small restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just a quiet table and good food. I felt proud. Not because of Marcus, but in spite of him. As I was leaving, I passed 2 men in suits talking near the bar. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard one of them mention Marcus's name. Wilson pulled his investment. $30,000 gone. Marcus is scrambling to find replacement funding. I kept walking, but my heart was pounding. Wilson was Marcus's biggest investor. If he'd pulled out, Marcus's company was in serious trouble. The business wouldn't last 6 months. Tyler had been right. News traveled fast in Portland's construction community. Marcus's company started missing deadlines. Subcontractors complained publicly about unpaid invoices. 2 former clients filed lawsuits claiming shoddy work. I heard about it through a nurse whose husband worked in commercial development. She mentioned it casually during lunch, not knowing I'd been married to Marcus. Apparently, the guy was living off his wife's money and calling himself a builder, she said. Now that she's gone, everything's falling apart. I said nothing, but inside I felt vindicated. Marcus had called me useless. His mother had agreed. But without me, his entire operation was collapsing. My phone rang that afternoon. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Olivia Bennett? This is Andrew Foster. I'm a business consultant. I worked with your ex-husband briefly last year. I sat up straighter. Okay. I'd like to meet with you privately. It's about an opportunity. Are you available tomorrow? I hesitated. What kind of opportunity? The kind that could change your career. I'll explain everything in person. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown. I spent the rest of the day wondering what this was about. Whatever it was, it felt important. Andrew Foster was a man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. He ordered coffee for both of us and got straight to business. Marcus burned a lot of bridges, Andrew said, including one with a major investor named Daniel Roth. Daniel funds rehabilitation technology projects, adaptive housing, accessibility initiatives. Big money, good work. What does this have to do with me? I asked. Daniel needs a project manager for a new pilot program. Someone organized, empathetic, and professional. Marcus wasn't any of those things, and Daniel walked away from him. But I remember you from a company event 2 years ago. You were competent.
Calm.
Everything Marcus pretended to be. I felt my pulse quicken. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a meeting. Daniel wants to meet you. If he likes you, the job is yours. And Olivia, this project intersects with contractors, city planners, and nonprofit organizations. Some of the same people Marcus desperately needs right now. I understood what he wasn't saying. Taking this job meant stepping into Marcus's world. It meant crossing paths with him professionally. When does Daniel want to meet?
I asked.
Andrew smiled. Tomorrow afternoon. I said yes. Daniel Roth's office overlooked the river. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, everything clean and professional. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with an easy smile and direct questions. Andrew says you're reliable, Daniel began. Tell me why I should trust you with $1 million pilot program. I didn't hesitate, because I understand that successful projects aren't about ego. They're about coordination, communication, and follow-through. I've spent 7 years managing medical teams during crises. I know how to keep people focused and on task. Daniel leaned back in his chair. This project involves multiple partners. Contractors, city officials, community advocates. Personalities will clash. How do you handle conflict? By focusing on shared goals, I said. Everyone wants the project to succeed. When conflict happens, I bring people back to that common purpose. We talked for an hour. Daniel asked about my nursing experience, my leadership training, my organizational style. He asked nothing about Marcus, and I was grateful. You're hired, Daniel said finally. You'll coordinate logistics, manage communication between partners, and oversee community outreach. Start Monday. I shook his hand, barely believing it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Daniel said with a smile. This job will be challenging, but I think you can handle it. As I left his office, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The work was intense. I coordinated between architects, contractors, accessibility consultants, and community organizations. Everyone had opinions, deadlines, and demands. I created spreadsheets, scheduled meetings, and mediated disagreements. I loved it. My nursing background helped. I was used to high pressure, competing priorities, and people who didn't always agree. The skills translated perfectly. Within 3 weeks, I'd earned the trust of every partner on the project. They saw I was organized, fair, and focused on results. Daniel noticed too. You're a natural, he said during one of our check-ins. I knew Andrew was right about you. Then one morning, an email landed in my inbox. Subject line. Proposal meeting request, Marcus Bennett Construction. My stomach dropped. Marcus was requesting a meeting with Daniel's firm. He was trying to get back into Daniel's good graces. He was trying to salvage his reputation. And I was going to be in that meeting. I forwarded the email to Daniel with a simple note. I can recuse myself if there's a conflict of interest. Daniel responded immediately. No conflict. You're representing our organization. Handle it professionally. I took a deep breath. Marcus was walking into my territory now. And he had no idea. The conference room was packed. Daniel sat at the head of the table. I sat to his right with two other project coordinators. Marcus walked in 10 minutes late, carrying a folder and wearing a suit that didn't fit quite right. He saw me and froze. His face went pale. His confidence evaporated. "Olivia?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Hello, Marcus," I said calmly. Daniel looked between us. "You two know each other?" "We were married," I said simply. "We're divorced now." "It won't affect my professional assessment." Daniel nodded. "Proceed, Mr. Bennett." Marcus fumbled with his folder. His hands were shaking. He pulled out a proposal and started presenting, but his voice was unsteady. He stumbled over numbers. His timeline didn't make sense. Halfway through, the director of community partnerships interrupted. "Claire, you've worked with similar projects. What's your assessment?"
Daniel had asked me.
Not Marcus.
Me.
I looked at Marcus's proposal. The timeline is unrealistic. The budget doesn't account for accessibility compliance. And the subcontractor list includes companies currently suing Mr. Bennett for unpaid invoices. The room went silent. Marcus stared at me. "You're sabotaging me." "I'm being honest," I said calmly. "This proposal isn't viable." Daniel closed the folder. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Bennett. We'll pass on this opportunity." Marcus's face turned red. He looked at me with something between shock and rage. Then he grabbed his folder and left without another word. After the meeting, Daniel pulled me aside. "That was difficult. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said honestly. I told the truth. "That's all." "You did," Daniel agreed. "And you did it professionally. That matters." Marcus's proposal had been rejected on its merits, not because of our history. The numbers didn't work. The timeline was impossible. The partnerships were compromised. Any competent evaluator would have reached the same conclusion. But Marcus wouldn't see it that way. He'd see betrayal, sabotage, revenge. Let him. I went home that night feeling nothing but certainty. I'd done my job. I'd been fair. If Marcus couldn't handle professional standards, that was his problem, not mine. The next morning, his mother showed up at my apartment building. She was screaming in the lobby when I came downstairs for work. "You ruined him. You destroyed his business. You vindictive witch." The building manager, Mr. Torres, was already there. "Ma'am, you need to leave, or I'm calling the police." She kept screaming. Mr. Torres called the police. They arrived within minutes and escorted her out. I documented everything. The date, the time, what she said, who witnessed it. Then I filed for a restraining order. No more confrontations. No more parking lot ambushes. I was done being anyone's target. Marcus called 3 days later. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened to the message, his voice was thick with tears. "Olivia, please.
I'm sorry.
I messed up.
I know I did.
But you have to understand how hard this is. My business is failing. I lost the Harrison project. I have creditors calling every day. I need help." I deleted the message. A week later, he tried again. "Can we meet?"
Just coffee.
"Please, Olivia. I know I hurt you, but I'm drowning here." I blocked his number. 2 weeks after that, he caught me in a cafe near the hospital. He looked terrible. Unshaven, exhausted, desperate. "5 minutes," he said. "That's all I'm asking." Against my better judgment, I sat down. "What do you want, Marcus?" "I want to apologize. I was wrong. I was an idiot. I treated you terribly, and I'm sorry." "Okay," I said. "Apology noted." "I need your help," he continued. "Your connections. Daniel Roth, the city contracts, the non-profit partnerships. You have access to the people I need. Please, Olivia, help me rebuild." I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who'd called me useless. The man who'd pushed divorce papers across the table and smiled when I signed them. "No," I said simply. "Olivia, I'm not your fixer anymore." I left him sitting there. My work with Daniel's organization continued to grow. The pilot project was succeeding beyond expectations. We'd completed phase 1 ahead of schedule and under budget. Community feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Daniel nominated me for a Regional Public Service Award. You've changed how we approach these projects, he said. Your leadership matters. The award ceremony was scheduled for December. I bought a simple black dress and prepared a short acceptance speech, just in case. Meanwhile, Marcus lost 2 more contracts. His business was hemorrhaging money. I heard about it through the construction community grapevine. People were talking, wondering how he'd lasted this long. Then a journalist called me. Her name was Amanda Price, and she worked for the business section of the Portland Tribune. I'm writing a story about failed construction companies, Amanda said. Your ex-husband's name keeps coming up. Would you be willing to comment? I hesitated. What kind of comment? Background information. What you observed during your marriage. Your perspective on his business practices. I'm not comfortable with that, I said. I won't badmouth anyone publicly. If Marcus's business failed, that's between him and his clients. You won't even confirm basic facts.
No.
I wish him well, but I'm not involved anymore. Amanda thanked me and hung up. I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, her story published. The headline read, Local construction firm collapses amid mismanagement claims. The article detailed unpaid contractors, missed deadlines, and questionable financial practices. Former employees were quoted anonymously. Clients described abandoned projects. My name wasn't mentioned once. Amanda had respected my refusal to participate. She'd written the story based on public records, court documents, and willing sources. It was thorough, fair, and damning. Marcus's reputation was destroyed. I felt no satisfaction. No vindication. Just a quiet sense of closure. The truth had come out without me saying a word. His failures had spoken for themselves. The same week the article published, Daniel called me into his office. The Regional Health Board read about our pilot project, he said. They're impressed. They want to recognize your contributions at the annual gala. What kind of recognition? I asked. Daniel smiled. The kind that comes with a promotion. Olivia, we're creating a new position, Regional Director of Community Programs. I want you to take it. I sat down, stunned. Regional Director? You've proven yourself. The board agrees. The position is yours if you want it. I accepted on the spot. The gala was held at the downtown Hilton. 500 people in formal wear, seated dinners, a program with speeches and awards. I wore the black dress I'd bought and tried to stay calm. Daniel had warned me that Marcus's mother would be there. She was a guest of another donor, someone who didn't know about our history. Ignore her, Daniel advised. Tonight is about you. I arrived early and found my table near the front. My colleagues from the project were there, along with Daniel and his wife. Everyone was excited, supportive. Then I saw them. Marcus and his mother, seated at a table near the back. His mother smirked when she saw me. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I ignored them both. The program began. Awards were presented for community service, innovation, and leadership. I applauded politely, not expecting anything. Then the host stepped to the microphone. Our final recognition tonight honors someone whose work has transformed how we approach community health initiatives. Please welcome our new Regional Director of Community Programs, Olivia Bennett. The room erupted in applause. I stood, my heart pounding, and walked to the stage. As I passed Marcus's table, I saw his face go pale. His mother's smirk disappeared. I stood at the podium, looking out at 500 faces. The applause continued. People were standing. A standing ovation. I waited for silence, then began my speech. Thank you. This recognition means everything to me, not because of the title, but because of the work it represents. When I started this project, I was rebuilding my life. I'd lost a marriage, my confidence, my sense of purpose. But I learned something important. Adversity doesn't define us. How we respond to it does. I paused, letting the words settle. Someone once told me I was too useless to be a partner, that I had nothing to contribute. For a while, I believed them. But then I realized something. When people try to diminish you, they're often revealing their own fears. They're showing you what they're afraid you'll become. The room was silent. Everyone was listening. So, to anyone here who's been told they're not enough, that they're useless, that they have nothing to offer, I want you to know this. Sometimes people teach you your worth by trying to take it away. And when they do, you get to prove them wrong. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just by showing up and doing the work. The applause started again. Louder this time. I looked at Marcus. He was staring at the table, his face red. His mother was glaring at me with pure rage. I didn't care. They didn't matter anymore. After the ceremony, people lined up to congratulate me. Community leaders, hospital administrators, nonprofit directors. Everyone wanted to talk about the project, about collaboration, about future initiatives. Marcus's mother tried to approach me during the reception. She pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with anger. You think you're so special now? You think this changes anything? Security intervened before she could get closer. Two men in suits gently but firmly escorted her toward the exit. She protested loudly, causing a scene. People stared. I felt embarrassed for her. Not angry. Just sad that she couldn't let go of whatever narrative she'd built about me. Daniel appeared at my side. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said honestly. Marcus didn't approach me during the reception. He stayed at his table, hunched over, looking small. When people walked past, they didn't acknowledge him. He'd become invisible. After the gala ended, I walked to my car alone. The parking lot was quiet. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. Marcus was following me. Olivia, wait. I stopped. What do you want, Marcus? He looked broken. Defeated. I was wrong. About everything. I need you. I can't do this without you. Yes, you can, I said calmly. You just have to figure out how. Please. I'm begging you. I looked at the man I'd once loved. The man who'd called me useless. You didn't break me, Marcus. You freed me. Then I got in my car and drove away. The next morning, I walked into my new office. Regional Director. The title still felt surreal. My colleagues had decorated the door with congratulation signs and brought coffee and pastries.
Speech.
Speech, someone called out. I laughed. I think I gave enough speeches last night. Everyone applauded anyway. Dr. Henderson stopped by with flowers. Proud of you, Olivia. Thank you for believing in me, I said. I didn't make you successful, she replied. I just gave you a chance to show everyone what you already were. That afternoon, an email arrived from the National Health Board. They were launching an executive mentorship program for emerging leaders.
They wanted me to apply.
I read the email 3 times, making sure it was real. You should do it, Daniel said when I told him. You're ready for that level. I submitted my application that evening. Whatever happened next, I was ready. Marcus declared bankruptcy 2 weeks later. His company dissolved. Assets were sold to pay creditors. The business he'd been so proud of disappeared completely. I felt nothing when I heard. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a quiet acknowledgement that some things end because they were never sustainable. I moved into a new house in March. Nothing extravagant, just a small place with a yard and good light. Real furniture. A kitchen where I could actually cook. Space that felt like mine. My colleagues helped me move. We spent the day carrying boxes and assembling furniture, laughing and eating pizza. It felt like community, like family. That night, I sat on my new couch and looked around.
This was my life now. Built by me. Paid for by me.
Chosen by me. No compromises. No justifications. Just peace. The divorce settlement was finalized in April. Marcus got nothing because there was nothing left to divide. His assets were gone. His business was gone. The house we'd shared had been foreclosed. I signed the final papers without emotion. It was over. Really, truly over. The executive mentorship program accepted me in May. I'd be working with healthcare leaders across the country, learning strategy, policy, and organizational development. My career was accelerating. My life was expanding. Everything I'd lost when I signed those divorce papers, I'd rebuilt into something better. In June, I attended a community groundbreaking ceremony. Daniel's organization was launching a new accessible housing project, designed with input from disabled community members. It was everything the pilot program had promised, scaled up and improved. "You helped design this," Daniel reminded me. "Your vision is in every detail." The mayor was there, city council members, press cameras. Daniel asked me to cut the ribbon. I stood at the front of the crowd with oversized scissors, looking at the building behind me. 6 months ago, I'd been signing divorce papers in a dining room. Now I was launching programs that would help thousands of people. "Ready?" the photographer asked. I cut the ribbon. Cameras flashed. People applauded. I thought about Marcus's words that day in the dining room. "Too useless to be a partner." His mother nodding in agreement. The confident smirk on his face when I signed the papers. He'd said I was useless. He'd been wrong. Not just wrong, but fundamentally blind to who I actually was. He'd seen a supporting character in his story. He'd never understood I was the protagonist of my own. A year after the divorce, I ran into Marcus at a grocery store. He was in the checkout line ahead of me, buying basics, bread, eggs, discount coffee. He looked older, tired. He'd gained weight and lost something in his eyes. That spark of confidence, that certainty he'd always carried, it was gone. He saw me and froze. "Olivia." "Hello, Marcus." We stood there awkwardly. Other shoppers moved around us. "You look good," he said finally. "I heard about your promotion. Congratulations." "Thank you. I'm working at a hardware store now."
Part-time.
"It's honest work." I nodded. "That's good." "I think about that day a lot," he said quietly. "The divorce papers."
What I said to you.
"I was cruel." "Yes, you were." "I'm sorry. For all of it." I believed him. He looked genuinely remorseful. But it didn't change anything. Sorry doesn't undo damage. It just acknowledges it happened. "I hope you're doing okay, Marcus," I said. He nodded, paid for his groceries, and left. I watched him walk to his car, shoulders hunched, moving like someone carrying invisible weight. I felt sad for him, but I didn't feel responsible for him. He'd made his choices. I'd made mine. The mentorship program transformed my understanding of leadership. I learned from executives who'd built careers spanning decades. I studied healthcare policy, organizational psychology, and strategic planning. By September, I was consulting for hospital systems across the region. My expertise was in demand. People wanted to know how I'd turned a pilot project into a model program. "What's your secret?" someone asked during a conference presentation.
"No secret," I said.
"Just focus on the work, respect your partners, and follow through on promises." That's it. That's it. Simple principles. But they worked. My income doubled. My network expanded. Opportunities appeared that I'd never imagined possible. And through it all, I remembered where I'd started. Sitting on the floor of an empty apartment, panicking about the future, feeling useless and abandoned. That version of me felt distant now. Like someone I used to know. Someone who needed a break before she could rebuild herself into something stronger. On the anniversary of signing those divorce papers, I took myself out to dinner. A nice restaurant downtown, the kind I'd never gone to during my marriage because Marcus thought they were pretentious. I ordered wine and steak and dessert. I toasted myself silently, celebrating not what I'd survived, but what I'd become. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Board meeting next month. They want to discuss expanding your role nationally." "Interested." I typed back. "Very interested." The waiter brought my dessert. I took my time eating it, watching the city lights through the restaurant windows.
Portland looked beautiful tonight.
My city. My life. My future. I thought about Marcus one last time. About his certainty that I'd come crawling back. About his belief that no one else would want me. About his conviction that I was too useless to be a partner. He'd been wrong about everything. I wasn't useless. I was irreplaceable. Not to him. He didn't matter anymore. But to myself. To the people I served. To the community I'd helped build. Marcus had tried to diminish me. Instead, he'd freed me to discover what I was actually capable of. and what I was capable of exceeded anything he could have imagined. I finished my dessert, paid the check, and walked out into the night. Tomorrow, I'd start planning for the national expansion. Next week, I'd present at another conference. Next month, I'd continue building programs that mattered. The future was mine, built on my terms, defined by my choices. Marcus had called me useless. Turns out I was just getting started.